Thank you for attending our webinar on Save Time and Ensure Accuracy with Model-Based Intelligence. I'm Steve Dam. I'm the founder and president of Spec Innovations. I've been working in this area for well over 30 years. I have an expert systems engineering professional certificate from the International Council on Systems Engineering. You can email me at the address below. So today we're going to talk about what's the problem with most models. We're going to get into the kinds of heuristics that are needed and how Innoslate's intelligence view can improve your models. So what's the problem with most models? So my favorite quote from George Box is, essentially all models are wrong, some models are useful. If you think about that, why is that the case? Well, what it really means is that we're modeling a portion of reality. We're simplifying it, we're making assumptions about it. Because to actually model all of reality, you'd need the universe to model the universe. So since we don't know how to create another universe, this is what we do. So obviously there are a lot of assumptions. Some of them may be wrong, maybe some may not work. You go beyond the boundaries, but basically you're trying to help you understand what does make sense and what doesn't. So models, to be effective, though, have to require standards to provide a consistent and complete enough representation. And so you need to have some formalism to have behind and basically rules that tell you what makes a good model. So there are a number of different modeling standards out there, and some of them are ontologies, where they actually focus on the data. So lifecycle modeling language is primarily an ontology, although it has some diagramming associated with it. DM2 is the DODAF Meta Model 2.0. That's another standard that's out there for the DoD. That ties together with the DoD architecture framework, but that's become data-centric, and they've not tied it to specific diagrams or models, visual models. STEP's another ontology that's available. It's an international standard that you can find. For visualization purposes, UML, SysML are primarily diagramming on. They have ontologies being developed for them, but really they're still fundamentally a diagramming approach to the problem. Same thing with the IDEF. That was one that was very popular back in the 70s and 80s. Still, people use the IDEF 0 as probably only one of the many models that they have in that framework that's available. And of course, business process modeling notation, those kinds of models as well. That's very focused for business processes. So these standards come with many pages of descriptions and rules. Keeping track of all these rules, or heuristics is another term for it, it becomes a very difficult task performed by a person. Different people will apply the heuristics differently as part of the problem, so you don't get the consistency you're looking for. So, but we need these heuristics to make sure we have a good model. Otherwise, you're really not meeting what the person who designed that diagram or ontology meant, and so you're not communicating well, and you're not understanding well what it is. So what kind of heuristics are needed? So heuristics are applied globally for each type of diagram and in each class of entity in the ontology. A global example would be that all entities have a description. So you want to make sure that, gee, I want everything in my database to be described. Another one would be a diagram for IDEF 0. They have a requirement that you can only have 3 to 6 boxes. The boxes represent the functions. And so the reason is it gets too cluttered. And if you have less than that, so you don't want more than 6. But if you have less than 3, you haven't decomposed it well enough and thought about what really is the functionality you need. So if you had more or less boxes, you actually violate the rule and you're not providing a correct IDEF 0 diagram. A class example would be that all functional entities begin with a verb. That's a very typical thing to do for functions, and that's just a best practice people have found. It's a good way to talk about that. So these are just the kinds of heuristics you would run into, the kinds of rules that are available for different types of problems with different diagramming techniques and different ontologies. So we need all kinds of these heuristics to have a complete model, but the burden is on the modeler and can become too great given the constraints on the number of personnel, schedule, and cost. So if you're having to do this by hand, it's hard work, takes a lot of time and energy, and takes a lot of work to be consistent. And then someone has to check you to make sure you're being consistent and applying these heuristics consistently. So you can check heuristics via intelligence view in Innoslate. Innoslate provides this tool. It's in the menu bar. You go up to the menu, you click on, you look down, there's intelligence is one of the options. So intelligence provides over 60 general and class heuristics. You can ignore or fix problems using this view. You can see in the interface on the right is the fix button or the ignore button. And that's for each individual entity which doesn't have it. So the example being shown, in fact, is entities with similar names. So they have very similar names in them. So now I've got to see, does this make sense with other ones? So when you hit the fix button, here's an example of entity name or description that contain ambiguous words as one of the heuristics. So if you click that fix button in the dialog, it'll pop up with the dialog you see on the right. And you have to read a little bit because it's telling you some things that are important to think about and what the problem might be. In this case, it's seeing that the word near, people living near the forest, is ambiguous, and that should be quantified. So if you want to have something that's going to be actually be able to, a requirement that's verifiable, then I need to make sure that it has greater clarity and has the ability to, so very often you might say within 30 miles or something like that would be the proper way to make the statement. So again, you press the go to entity button, you can make the correction, or you can ignore it. And going back to the original thing, you hit the ignore button for it. By the way, that might be the right case in this situation because this is just a high-level requirement that's being used and worked at. So tailoring heuristics to meet your needs. So if you want to now say, well, there's too many warnings, there's too many errors, there's too many things that I really don't care about. So the settings button lets you go in and change those priorities. So you can make it, instead of a warning, maybe you want to ignore all, or maybe you want to make it an error, depending, maybe that's more important to you. So these are the different ones that are available. If you notice, there are a number of them that are toggled off already, is ignore all, and so there are more available to you than what we default to in the tool. But I'm sorry, the other part of that is that the heuristics. You get the detail about what each of these heuristics mean in this view as well. Of course, intelligence views default set of heuristics. We have 6 global warnings, 9 action warnings, 4 errors, and 5 ignored. You can read the rest, but you can see that there's a lot of heuristics here that are available. So the total set, we have 55 out of 67 heuristics available are automatically turned on. You can go through and do that ignore if you don't want to go through all these, but we highly recommend keeping at least these 55, and you may want to look at the others to see if you want to add them. So in summary, following the rules is going to make for a better model that improves your accuracy and gives you what you're really looking for out of the modeling. And of course, the other part of this is it's saving you a lot of time and money, because now it's doing this automatically for you, can help you, guide you to where the problems are and help you resolve them quickly. So that's the key. The tool is helping you follow the rules. And by doing that, you are going to be a much better requirements analyst and modeler. So please contact us, request a live demo. We're happy to walk through and answer your specific questions at any time. Thank you for your time.